What if I told you that some players are selling actual monsters in RuneScape for billions of gold? You probably wouldn't believe me, but it's true, and in today's video, we're going to explore the hidden world of selling mobs for money in RuneScape 3. We're going to talk about exactly why somebody would pay so much for a monster and how it even works, because just hearing someone trying to sell a monster just sounds not possible on the surface. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as 70% of you aren't subscribed. We're on the road to 100K one day for that sweet YouTube play button, so maybe one day we'll get there. Now, as the title suggests, some players pay billions of gold for the right to kill one monster once. It sounds stupid, but it's actually true. The first monster we're going to talk about here that players are paying hundreds of millions or sometimes multiple billions of gold to kill is based on a Slayer creature that's called a Soulgazer. Now, these creatures are Slayer mobs that drop something called the Hex Hunter Bow, which is similar to the Inquisitor Staff in Pterosaur Maul, but for range. Now, the thing about the Hex Hunter Bow is it's dropped from normal Soulgazers, but these aren't the mob we're going to talk about here. They're dropped from normal Soulgazers at a rate of 1 in 1.5 million. Yes, it's more than a 1 in a million drop to get a Hex Hunter Bow from these, but when killing Soulgazers with something called Seeker Charms, which you can get from Seekers or buy off the GE, you get a higher chance to spawn something called an Elite Soulgazer. Now, you can use these Seeker Charms at a portal in Zamrock's hideout, and this will increase the odds of getting yourself an Elite Soulgazer spawn from 1 in 50 rate to a 1 in 10 rate, making it significantly faster to get these to spawn. Now, the thing that's different about an Elite Soulgazer is they offer the Hex Hunter Bow at a 1 in 1500 rate instead of the 1 in 1.5 million, so it's still a high rate, but it's significantly higher than the normal Soulgazer. But there's a super rare Soulgazer called the Veil Ripper Ozharaka, which has a similar rate of spawning of 1 in 1500 per Elite Soulgazer. So this Soulgazer has a guaranteed drop of a Hex Hunter Bow. So if it spawns, you're guaranteed to get a Hex Hunter Bow if you kill it. Now, this is where the title of the video comes in. Since this guarantees a Hex Hunter Bow, players are actually selling this if they get it to spawn to other players for billions and billions of gold. But why would somebody spend billions of GP to kill something to get a Hex Hunter Bow that's worth like not a billion GP? That makes no sense. Well, sometimes it's an Iron Man that might actually buy it for their accounts, since of course they're an Iron Man, they can't buy it on the GE, so instead of grinding Soulgazers themselves as the drop rate's so massive, they might just pay somebody who's already had it spawned and then get it for themselves. Now, the other players that are buying this is because it's actually probably the toughest requirement for the Ultimate Slayer title, which is a golden title that is received after completing the full Slayer collection log. I've covered it before. It's a pretty cool title and one that's actually very desirable for most people. But to complete this, you have to get a Hex Hunter Bow drop. Now, would I personally buy this? Hell no, I would not buy this, but a lot of people actually do. Now, you might be asking me, how would you even sell a monster? How do you sell an NPC? Well, that's kind of the sketchy part here. Technically, this involves a lot of trust, as somebody will have to give you the money and then you go and kill the Veil Ripper. There's actually, you can't trade it in a trade screen or anything like player-owned farm animals. There have been accounts of players getting the Ripper sniped or stolen from them. I searched for players selling or buying Veil Rippers in various discords and forums, and this is how I discovered a lot of this talk about buying or selling these monsters. Or some people actually do Veil Ripper farming all the time and call themselves Veil Ripper farmers, so I bet they're making a ton of money. So yes, there are players just farming and selling these monsters in RuneScape, which to me is just crazy. It seems kind of a sketchy, shady market here, because like I said, you can't trade a monster, which just makes this a real sketchy transaction. But before Soulgazers came out, there's actually another monster that players would try to get to spawn and sell for a high price. This brings us to the last mob in this video, which is based on the Slayer mob Rune Dragons. Rune Dragons, released in 2015, are a Slayer mob that most of you are probably aware of. They drop most notably the boot add-on tips like the Rage Fire Glands, the Steadfast Scales to upgrade your Glacier boots, but these dragons Dragons can actually spawn elite forms of the Rune Dragon at a 1 in 50 rate, with you getting a guaranteed one if you're on a Slayer task. So there are elite variants of Rune Dragons as well, but there's a special Rune Dragon that's called Bury the Destroyer. Now Bury the Destroyer randomly spawns at a 1 in 512 rate, so every 512 elite Rune Dragons you encounter, one will on average be Bury. Now Bury guarantees that you get a Ketsi outfit scroll, which is a scroll that unlocks a piece of the outfit override. This of course is another requirement for the Slayer collection log, and while not as rare as a Hex Hunter bow, it still used to be sold to people and might still be being sold, albeit probably a little bit more infrequently than the Veil Ripper, but I did find cases of people paying hundreds of millions for basically the right to kill Bury, so some people are still looking to buy and sell these. If you look on the Runescape forums today, you can see a few threads as well from not too long ago. So these are two rare mobs that players are actually going out and hunting and selling for GP, or maybe they're just taking advantage if they happen to get a spawn of these and don't want the items for themselves. Maybe they take advantage of that and make a little extra cash by selling it to somebody who does want it and who does value it. Now the only other elite Slayer mob that's really, I guess, special is called the Elite Edamu. Now this one doesn't have a funny name like Bury or the Veil Ripper, but it does have a chance to give you the Edamu pet. Now the pet is called Eddie, and it's dropped from Elite Edamuds at a 1 in 512 rate, which since the elite spawn at a 1 in 50 rate, you're gonna have to kinda kill over 25k Edamu on average to get the pet. However, since this mob doesn't actually guarantee anything like the Rune Dragon does or the Veil Ripper does, this mob isn't sold as far as I could find. It just really wouldn't be worth it for anyone since the odds of getting the pet are so low, and these actually spawn a little more frequently, so I thought I'd mention it because it's kind of unique and it fits in with the others, but as far as I could tell, this one isn't really on that, black market of selling monsters. To me though, it's just crazy that people can sell a monster spawn for billions of gold, and it kind of got me thinking it goes a little bit hand in hand with things like leeching. For instance, there are people that will leech bosses on their Ironmen to get drops when they can't do the boss themselves, or they pay to get faster kills with an experienced team, or people pay to get forced drops at places like Virago for a higher chance at the pet, or go with people that already have the pet so they have a higher chance, or even players that now pay to go with a team at Zami to leech the titles at higher enrages. Leeching is different to this, but to me it's sort of related in a way to these mobs, as you're kind of paying to get something that you're not doing any of the work for yourself. You're basically, I guess it's kind of leeching to these mobs. With the recent Ironman changes allowing Ironmen to PVM with main accounts, I feel like leeching is gonna come even more relevant in the future, and if you guys want to see a video maybe of me exploring the world of leeching in RuneScape 3, let me know by leaving a like and I'll start working on that video, because I feel it's kind of a super interesting topic and something I've never really explored before, because I just have no motivation personally to leech anything, because to me it kind of defeats the purpose of playing the game. I kind of play for fun in my own sense of achievement, so I feel like leeching stuff would kind of kill that. Even on old school RuneScape or back in the day, you could leech like mini games like Barbarian Assault, and to me, I just prefer just doing it myself and getting that feeling of satisfaction, and that's kind of where I stand on these mobs. Even if I had an Iron Man, I wouldn't go and pay to buy any of these mobs, because especially the Ultimate Slayer title, like that's a title that I want to get eventually, but I'm not gonna go and pay billions of GP to finish it. I'd rather just do it myself, because if you think about it, you're making a ton of money and then you're going to go spend that money just to get a drop, to complete the log, to get a title. It just kind of defeats the purpose to me. But hey, if you like watching videos about monsters that are kind of weird or unknown that make you billions of GP, I made a video about the Abomination that drops a huge item, and I saw how much GP it is per hour. You can watch that right here on the screen, so make sure you guys check that out, and I'll see you in the next one.